Welcome all to another episode of the Analytic Mind podcast. I'm with Jarrett. Jarrett's been on the podcast before from memory, one of our earlier guests. So great to have him back. Jarrett's one of our enterprise DNA experts, has been for a long time, been making a huge impact in the community, and also is really leading a lot of our latest discussions around Power Automate Desktop, Power Automate in general, and just showcasing how you can actually, in a practical sense, get a lot of value out of these technologies. So that's what I'm keen to dive into a bit today. But hey, welcome, Jarrett, and thanks for making the time. I know there's a bit going on in your world at the moment, so thanks for making the time and being a part of this conversation.
Glad to be back.
And just for everyone who maybe hasn't listened to the past one, maybe just a quick outline of what you get up to and some of the things that you've been working on lately.
You want to go back way to the beginning, or do you want me to kind of go on that right now?
No, just right now. I think just if someone wants to learn more about Jarrett, there's a lot of information on Jarrett on our website. Yeah. So maybe just a quick update on what you're doing and some of the interesting projects you've been working on.
Yeah, currently I work for a company, and basically I do Power BI for clients throughout the U.S. and Canada. I've been doing that for the business. We've been doing that for almost 5 years now, and I've been doing that. So we continuously go to conferences and get new clients, or from word of mouth we get new clients, and mainly in the restoration industry, which is like if you have any kind of water, fire, or mold damage to your house. We're the contractor that goes in and cleans up the mess and then puts it back together for you. And I've been doing that for 5 years, but here within the last couple of years, I've been using Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop to help automate and lessen the load of the amount of time that I have to spend to get data each day, so that the Power BI reports can refresh every day for the clients. So that's something I've been working on within the last couple of years. It has totally changed how I do things, and it definitely helped improve the amount of time that I have to spend doing that. So I went from going, it was probably an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. So you're talking, a good 10 hours a week or so. That's 40 hours. One whole week of my time. Or I've worked more than 40 hours, but at least 10 hours a week I was spending or more of just getting and updating and refreshing data that now is automated and has saved me a lot of time. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm just really keen to dive into here, because from all the relationships that I have, you're by far and away leading the pack in terms of the impact that you could make to automation around the data engineering piece. I know last time we talked a lot about building a data product, and that's basically what you've done here. And you've created Power BI reports as a product, and you're selling that to your users. But I guess in terms of a way to scale, how to actually scale that out, particularly with different clients, different needs, etc. You've actually used automation in the back end instead of having to hire tons of resources. You've used the automation and the ability to harness the features within Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop to actually scale underneath it, or scale things underneath those data products that you're sending out to customers. So I was wondering, maybe if you could just expand on how that has evolved, like how things were at one point, and then how you realized, wow, Power Automate and the tools around desktop and online, how they actually fitted into your strategy, your execution strategy on some of these things in the back end.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned before, I spent quite a bit of time, and it was really right around when COVID hit in 2020, is when I was spending a lot of time every day, like I was just mentioning there, is refreshing data manually, like logging into websites, extracting data into CSV files, and then manually, uploading that to SharePoint. And I was doing that for multiple clients. So like I said, an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours a day, that got pretty redundant for me. So I really wasn't able to be as productive as I could be I knew that those were newer products, Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop. I think they were called Microsoft Flow, before before all of this. And I got to talking with way back when I started with this with one of our other experts, Zoe, who's willing to work for Microsoft, and she kind of helped push me in the right direction of where to go to start that journey down Power Automate. And then Power Automate Desktop came out after that, and I just kind of have the mentality with software is if you give me long enough, I'll figure it out. I know, and it's kind of like the old I just went in there and learned this mainly because there's not a lot of content out there. I mainly learned how to do this. It's just beating up the software and learning what does what and what affects this and what affects that. And it was a long, tedious process. So I'm not going to say it was easy, but it's definitely rewarding to where I'm at now.
Yeah. No, look, I remember a couple of years ago, you were telling us how many errors you would be getting, and I presume you've almost developed sort of your best practice framework just from testing and trial and error over a long period of time.
Now with what I have is if it's the same client that uses the same software that I have to log into, I pretty much just copy the flow and paste it, and then just all I have to do is edit the username and the password for the website, because what I've learned over time is just to name the reports the same thing for each client, and that way when you're automating this, it's I have these templates set up for each one of these softwares that I use. That's the easy ones to do, and then the other ones are that I have are I have data that's emailed to me on a daily basis in a CSV file. And now I don't even have to do anything with that. Power Automate automatically, takes that file and saves it to a SharePoint folder once that email is received in my inbox. So now I don't even have to. I mean, that's another time saver right there. And when I was just starting this up, and I would venture to say anybody that's listening to this podcast is the number one question I'd ask yourself is what are you doing right now in your day-to-day work life that could be automated, whether it's by your emails or whether it's downloading data, something. There's got to be something that you're doing that's very redundant. And if you were able to take that off of your workload and have it automated, I'm sure that your company would be a lot more happy with you and able to do some things that currently right now you're not able to do. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you mentioned it earlier. It's like I'm the only one who does what I do. So it's very important because time is very critical for me. But this has also helped us keep costs down so they can pay me more. So that's always a real good thing.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. Like if you're worried about automating your job away, just think about the amount of time and money you're saving, and that could eventually accrue to you personally. But that's this is one of the biggest trends that I have identified over the recent years, just with some of the maturity of these products, is that not only are we far more powerful as data analysts with new tools like Power BI, etc. Right? Where the everyday user is becoming a data engineer, is truly becoming a data engineer and an automation expert, because Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop and tools like it, another example is like Zapier. Like these tools didn't exist 5 years ago. They've matured so much. They're so much more usable, and the amount of scale that you can not only bring to the analytics side and all of the great things that we know you can do with Power BI, but also to the underpinnings of those reports, the operations around your data management and data collection. That you can operationalize that, and this is how you do it. These are the tools that you can use, and I guess I'm interested to get your take on that as well. Like this is just one of the biggest trends. It's one of the biggest trends out there.
Yeah, I have a couple, little tidbits that I'll share with you here. Just recently, I had a client, and she was a CFO for a company, and what she worked on WIP accounting, and they're using QuickBooks Desktop currently, and basically it was taking her over 40 hours a quarter to complete that task. So, every 3 months, she's, having to spend, a total of 40 hours or more to create this report. And just by using Power Automate, and Power Automate desktop, the combination, I was able to create a report. To automate that to where now, instead of her having to go in there and do all this, saving over 40 hours. That's just one story, but another good story is I've replaced several folks that all they pretty much did for a company was export data out of Excel, run these crazy macros, and then send reports to managers and higher ups and all this stuff. And by the time the data got to them, it was stale data anyways. It was old. And now I've been able to replace those folks, what they were currently doing, and now they're able to do things that are a lot more profitable to the company than they were before by just exporting all this data. So it's awesome to see the trend of where this product is going, because it's going to replace a lot of our day-to-day activities that quite frankly most of us really don't like doing. So that's the number one question I would ask, like I mentioned there a little bit earlier. It's just ask yourself, what is it do you think that you do, daily that could be automated to help make you more productive in your workday?
Yeah, I'm so behind you on that. That is even those stories are exactly the same reason why I started Enterprise DNA a long time ago, because I was working in a large organization, and literally there was two people that and it was like 80% of my job was to get reports together. It was to get reports together to send to other people. And I think in 1 month of when Power BI came out, and even its first form, we recreated those reports and bettered them and automated it. And so it basically just took to like two people's jobs. And the allocation of that time could be spent on other things. It wasn't like we were losing our jobs. We just actually were able to do much more interesting and exciting things that were going to add a lot more value. And these are the little opportunities that are everywhere. They are on the front end with the analytics side, but also in the back end as well. I would almost put some of the features in Power BI specifically into this boat, right? Like, because even things like data flows, data marts, Power Query, and which is sort of the backbone of all these things, is kind of similar in some regards to Power Automate, right? Obviously, there's Power Automate does a few other things that connects up different systems, if you like, but it's similar, right? It's in a similar segment of your automation strategies.
Yeah, and they're starting to do more and more with Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop with the capabilities of them of the integration with Power BI, because recently I figured out how to go in there and I can automatically have a DAX query run and export to CSV and email it to a client, because there are still clients out there that want the ability to print, and then we know that we can't print from a Power BI report if you don't have access to the actual, a lot of my clients don't have access to the actual, the PBIX file. So they're not able to print or export to Excel. They don't have access to the service. So what I've been able to do through Power Automate is connected to Power BI and have these reports exported. And you can tell it what day, what hour, how many times a day that you want this data emailed to them. So now they have the flexibility of having it when they want it, if they want to print it. But that's still the number one request that I get from all of my clients, and basically I have to tell them it's a Microsoft issue and not a my company issue. But that's the number one request that I get. So
yeah. But like even the fact that you can do it all, like you can do it all and you can automate it all is the main story here. It's like you can do basically anything you put your mind to. You could transform any process or anything within an organization. I truly believe, like if you're using if you're having to do manual work in Excel or create reports within PowerPoint, I mean, those are low hanging fruit everywhere, right? Like there is a way to basically automate all of that work with some combination of Power Automate and Power BI. And then when you throw in Power Apps to that as well, I mean, your value generation just goes through the roof.
Yep.
Power Automate, I would say, is it opens the door to far more efficient data collection. That's kind of how I look at that, is that it just enables you through like simple apps to be able to generate or adjust like current data, whether it's sitting in SharePoint or Excel or somewhere else. What are Jarrett, what are some of the maybe just give us a couple of examples of just some general flows, some general things that you're doing on a really common basis that would be are the easy things, that the quick wins, if you like the quick wins that others can go after and use Power Automate either online or desktop for.
Yeah, I would definitely say with Power Automate, if you're new to Power Automate or just trying to kick the tires to see what it can do, is I would definitely start with the built-in templates. There's already built-in templates, and that's where I just did a search for. You can do a generic search for and that's what I looked for, is because I got all those emails I talked about earlier. So that's probably my number one flow that I have through Power Automate, is basically every time that I receive an email from a specific client that includes a file, that it automatically, there's a Power Automate template out there that will take that file when it comes to my inbox and then automatically move that to SharePoint and then delete the email. So I don't even know that it exists there. I just know that it happens. So that is my number one that I do through Power Automate. And then number two is that's how I schedule my desktop flows. It is through Power Automate. So that's how I schedule and that's just by using Power Automate there to help schedule the flows to run at a specific time. If you're doing a lot of flows through Power Automate desktop, because I do have quite a few flows that run every night. And what's good about it is with all the stats and everything that you get through Power Automate is it tells you kind of like what the average flow time is for each one of those. So you can have it timed out. I mean, you can have it timed to run. I mean, basically what I have mine run through the night is about every 5 minutes through the night. I schedule flows to run. So, but I have a bunch of them that are scheduled to run through the middle of the night there. So that's typically, but that's typically where I would start out with Power Automate. And then Power Automate desktop, that's a whole nother beast. I mean, because you got two different options that you can do. Is you can go through the list of different options down the left side. There's like menus with different actions. Go through those. That's what I used to do. I went through the whole list and just double clicked and then tried to see what it would do or what it wouldn't do. But where I learned the most, I think, is the recorder and within the Power Automate desktop is you go to a website, you just start clicking here and clicking on different boxes and things right here and see what action returns from clicking somewhere. And that's where I kind of learned how to do and use Power Automate desktop.
Maybe if you could clarify, like, what do you think you should push to Power Automate desktop, and what should you leave? What should you do with the online?
I mean, really, it's not a good answer, but it depends. Because I mean, a lot of it's. I mean, I do get this in my YouTube comments when I do have a Power Automate video from time to time. Is like that question right there. Can I do this in desktop or can I do it in Automate? And I'm like, you could probably do it in both. But probably, I mean, there probably is a better place to do one or the other. And I would say use Power Automate definitely if there is a predetermined or a template already set up for it. I mean, why go recreate the wheel in Power Automate desktop if you can do it within Power Automate? It's just with Power Automate desktop, I like that functionality because you can go in there and test the different functions and see it work as you're going through the whole process, you can test it out and see, oh, okay, it's failing here, and this is why, and you get to see those errors, and that's where you learn Power Automate Desktop. But I know it's kind of a canned answer probably, but it depends, because a lot of these things you can do in both, and I don't know if there's a right answer or a wrong answer of where you do it. It's just how much time is it going to take you to do it in Power Automate versus Power Automate Desktop.
Yeah. Would it be right in saying that, if you're trying to reenact sort of clicks, like clicking your mouse or typing on your keyboard, that is probably something that is more favored, towards the desktop version?
Yes, correct. Yeah, definitely.
Online is more sort of cloud technology talking to each other, like an email talking to Power BI or email talking to SharePoint. Like, that's sort of more what the online version is very good at.
Yeah, the online version is very good at that. But the desktop is very good if you're doing things inside of Excel files or any kind of Microsoft file type. Yeah. And if you're doing any kind of thing on the web, that's definitely your or something that can be recorded, because that's what's, with recording, you can record it not only within the web, but you can record it also within the files and stuff. But that can be a little bit tedious if you're going through files and doing all these different things. There's probably, something in Power Automate that can help you out first there. Yeah. So, I think a good approach might be just to go to Power Automate first and kind of search for your template. And if you can't find a template, then I would go to Power Automate Desktop to see if that's an option.
Yeah, like I just think of online now as if you want to send messages in the cloud, like, everything is cloud-based. That most of the things we use are cloud-based now, like our email is all cloud, Power BI is cloud, SharePoint's cloud, even Excel Online is cloud. Yeah, cloud's the vast majority of things that I'm sure most users use now. And so whenever you want to send a message from one to another, that's where you want to use online. But anywhere where you want to actually like reenact clicking around a website or reenact clicking in a file, that's the sort of thing that you want to push to desktop. And that's why they have desktop. That's why Microsoft Power Automate Desktop exists, is because I don't think online actually facilitated that well.
No, and they're constantly making improvements to that. It's I don't want to say it's anywhere near where where Power BI is right now, but they have done a very good job here recently of adding updates to help these things work a whole lot better than when I first started. Because when I first started, there was not a lot of things that are recognized now within Power Automate Desktop. Power Automate Desktop were not recognized back when I was first starting out with this. So it was a very new product. Power Automate Desktop. Basically, I think I was probably on the ground floor of that, because I remember doing some sending in a ticket to support, and there was a good gentleman that helped me out. But a lot of the stuff that was in there, there wasn't a whole lot of support on his end, or things for him to look through to to kind of see why this wasn't working. So it was an experience. So
yeah,
one a lot better.
One of the things that I'm seeing is they're trying to they're trying to integrate Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Apps into everything that we do day to day, like your daily productivity. They've integrated them into Teams. I'm not sure if Power Automate sits within Office just yet. Even though it's kind of like it's basically like an extension of the rules feature in your email. But also I saw recently that Power Automate is now embedded into SharePoint. So like you can create a Power Automate flow directly within SharePoint. So it's just becoming more and more integrated, and I think that's only going to continue.
It's a great marketing concept from Microsoft, because we all use a lot of products, and especially Microsoft products. So how do you make that product better? Is you make one product communicate with another product, whether it be Power Automate Desktop, Power Apps, Power BI, Excel, SharePoint, whatever this Microsoft product. It makes business. That's just a great strategy to have these communicate with each other, because I know of the industry that I build these Power BI reports for. That's what they struggle for, is they have the software that they're using to enter all this information, but they have all these other softwares that they're using to help make that product better. But in many cases, they don't communicate with each other. So Microsoft is, I think, on the leading edge of something great here, to definitely make these products communicate more and more with each other to where they integrate, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like clear as day for me. Like, this is where the action is, right? Like the absolute transformation that you can create if you execute these technologies well in combination. I mean, it's just like out of this world what you can do. I mean, if you haven't realized it yet, I mean, you just should use these for a day or so, and you'll quickly see how you can. I mean, I would even just give like the most relevant example here is us internally at Enterprise DNA. I mean, we do these days so much reporting, but it's literally all automated. We don't even have I created it with a couple of others in the team, and we don't actually even do much day to day now. It's like so automated. We see all the data about everything in the business. It all just updates automatically when we're sleeping. I mean, that wasn't even possible like a few years ago. Like, it just was not. And any business can do that these days. I mean, that any business, any team within a large organization. I mean, it's
well, you definitely
it's so
need it. Yeah, you definitely need it with us because you have people working for you in different time zones. There's different people in a whole lot of different time zones. If anybody needs it more than it's you. It's definitely a company like it's a more of a global, worldwide company.
Yeah.
That's definitely what you need because a lot of times you're sleeping and we're here doing stuff. So it's just it's crazy.
Yeah. There's still so many opportunities. I mean, I still think we could compound what we're doing a number of times, but just in terms of just visibility about what's going on, whether it's marketing or sales or operations or finance, all of these different things. I mean, we're tracking 20 times more than we were 4 years ago. And we could do more, but we're able to do it with not having to hire an entire data team these days. Like, it can literally be done with a couple of people, and then you put all the effort. It's sort of like you put all the effort up front, and then you see the benefits long term. Instead of just
definitely.
having to, yeah.
With with all this, with all this, I mean, and most of my clients are Power BI clients, and I use Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop on my end, but it's just like we're just so busy right now. I don't have time to do it. But from a revenue standpoint, I could almost take what I do in Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop and almost sell that to other companies.
Yeah.
Just think of the revenue we could bring in from that just to automate what they do. I mean, just because I do this, that's just scratching the surface. Maybe they have all these processes in place because that's the first thing I ask my clients when we start a Power BI model for them is, what are you currently doing in Excel or PowerPoint or whatever that we can create Power BI reports for you to help you run your business. I mean, just think of what I could probably go to them and say, hey, what are you doing daily that's very redundant and everything that could be automated that would help you and your employees, be more productive? I mean, I'm sure people would. I mean, that's not even like a product. The possibilities with this are pretty endless. That if you wanted to create a business model around this, once you figure it out, I mean, I'm sure other companies pay almost even more for that than they would just the Power BI reports that I do for them.
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing that I don't think I haven't seen it being that opportunity taken advantage of as much as I think it should. Is building these enterprise applications by combining Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate, and then building it based on some process, some common process that users do within organizations, or even just going to organizations and saying, hey, we can build you at a pretty low code, low cost, something that will totally automate some sort of process here. I think that there, for any of those who are listening who are looking for opportunities in this space, I mean, that is a big one. That is a seriously big one.
That is a wide open market right now. It's not even being touched.
Yep. Totally. I mean, a blue ocean, if you want to use a common term. And there is a blue ocean of opportunity there because the technologies weren't even mature like 2 years ago. So it is like a brand new opportunity. And then what I would probably do if I had the time to take advantage of it is I would get super specific. I would go after a specific niche first, and then try and execute that really well, and then expand and then expand. Because you obviously want to build as much scale as you can into what you're doing, and you want creating bespoke enterprise applications every single time, I think would be a difficult business model. But niching down and then expanding, by kind of what you have done, right? Like seeing copying and pasting flows and Power BI reports to the next customer and the next customer. Yeah, that's how you can really do something successful.
And it's very industry specific. So I mean, I deal with a bunch of different clients that use different softwares, but in the same industry, it's very, if I go to one organization to the next, I'm sure they have very similar processes in place that you could tweak it here and there to do that pretty easily. And I'm sure anybody listening on the call would probably be able to venture out to say too, whatever industry you're in, there probably is some, a group of like templates, so to speak, that you can create for this to help automate processes. But then, I mean, obviously there is some that it's going to be very specific to the organization. But I would say for the most part, if you're in a specific type of industry, I'm sure you have your canned processes that a lot of different companies run.
Yeah. So it's about trying to identify those opportunities and then developing a framework, like an enterprise app framework, and then being able to just do a little bit of doing that extra 10% of customization for that particular customer. There's that is a truly scalable business model that has only recently appeared. So I would love for someone to take advantage of that and really go for it.
I think in the near future, I will definitely be tapping into that with some of my clients. So,
right.
I definitely will, and I'll have to start out with one of my bigger, or a client that I can work with and test it out on one client to see how it works, to see how much time it's going to take for that. But it's definitely something that we're only scratching the surface with what I do, and I'm sure other people have even more ideas than what I've thought of. So
one of the other things that I really like about that model is you could more than a lot of other businesses, you can truly show the ROI, because you could go in and say, tell me how much time you spend per week or per month on this particular process. And then all you need to do is show that within a month or 3 months or whatever, is that they would get their entire return on their investment that quickly. Like the payback would be so quickly if you could just go and put in some ready-made application using tools that they already have access to or already have subscriptions to, but you're just supercharging their efforts in a particular particular part of their operations or particular part of their roles.
Yeah, I think that'd be very important is when you're first starting out with the client for this type of material and stuff, is that's what I would ask those kind of questions is, what do you typically spend, doing this and this? And then, you have all that data, up front. And then once you have this created, you can say, hey, we've done this right here, which is probably like an annual savings of, X amount of dollars to you. And this right here, I mean, does this sound like something that, this is not really even there really isn't a sales aspect to this. It's like, hey, do you want to save money and do you want to save time? It's not really a marketing, or you don't need a salesperson really to pitch this. This is if the client really truly is open-ended and open-minded, it's this is kind of what would make your life easier. And once they know the time that they're saving and the amount of money that they're saving, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people out there that are probably even listening to this that are doing a bunch of things right now that they could be doing differently.
One of the other things that comes to mind is that there isn't actually, from what I understand, there's not really any other technology that does all of these things. Like there's no matter what area of the business you're in, like what business function or what operations area you work in, there's no one software out there that can speak to other, like all other softwares, integrates into Microsoft Suite so well, has amazing analytics capabilities, has amazing like the flexibility to build any sort of app that you want. There's literally nothing out there. And Microsoft have produced this suite within the Power Platform to create a almost like band-aid things together, but do it all within the same ecosystem, right? And so if you can create the components that can easily be integrated into the ecosystem that most Microsoft users already have access to, you can create a transformational product almost anywhere within an organization, literally anywhere. And so for this opportunity, I think it's just about being really focused initially to get things up and running, and then slowly potentially evolving into other things like that is the look, man, that's like, I mean, I'm not joking. I mean, that's $100 million business, like right there. If you are able to execute well over, a decade or so, like there is that much opportunity out there.
Yeah, and what's crazy is just with what I've done inside of my work organization, with this hurricane that was just here within the last, when it just end of September, 1st October, the whole last month has been kind of a blur for me. But the reason why I bring that up is a lot of the things that I have in place that are automated. I mean, I think that my organization is a lot more prepared to take on this like huge amount of work that we have right now. That I don't think if some of these processes were in place beforehand, we might have had to, give a lot more work away to other companies. And I think by having some of these processes in place, not only Power Automate, but Power BI, the organization I work for has been a whole lot more prepared to take on this overwhelming aspect of what we do. So we've definitely seen an increase in business, and they've definitely had to turn away some work, but I think they're able to handle a lot more just because of things that we have in place with what we talked about on this call so far.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just bringing more efficiency to what you're doing, right? Like, you still get a bit of hesitancy around automation, I think, because everyone just is scared that they're automating their job away. But to me, you got to flip it. It's an opportunity creator. It is an opportunity to do a lot more high value things. I mean, even if I think back to what I did, years ago, before Power, these new tools came out. I mean, half our jobs was just data manipulation and data organization. I mean, that truly was half my job in most of the roles that I worked in, right? And the reality is if you master these tools, I mean, you can find ways to automate practically anything, absolutely anything, and that just opens up more time for you to work on other things, work on new strategies, work on new products, work on more creative things, work on customer communication, sales, all those great things.
And I think you made a good point there of people being afraid of, being replaced by automation and everything. But I know it was probably 15, 16 years ago with one of my previous employers. And I'll never forget, because I was asking my boss at the time is how do I move up in the company? And his response to me, and I know it clear as day, I can still see, I can almost picture him telling me this, and a light just went off. And all he said to me was, Jarrett, train somebody that's on your team to do your job better than you. And once you can replace yourself, you can move up to the next position. And that just like, at that time, I was a much younger, young man, but I was like, that was one of those aha moments where like, okay, I don't need to be afraid of these people that are my team. I need to train them to be better than me so I can move up and do something different within the company. So that's hopefully that hits home to somebody on this call, because to me that was one of the biggest aha moments that I had from a boss.
and would you even relate that to training the robot, to training the digital robot with Power Automate? Would you find some relation there?
Yeah, a little bit, but I know several people within organizations that I've done this with, and it's actually, what we're just talking about here. It's replaced what they do.
Yeah.
And now they do something totally different within the organization. And every
Mhm.
time I see, these people, it's amazing to get to see that happen and totally kind of really change their life, and help them do
Mm.
things that they weren't able to do in the past because they were doing all this repetitive things that could be automated. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a rewarding part on my end. I mean, not only it's not all about the money. It's it's definitely about helping people out and getting them to where they want to be.
Yeah. I mean,
If
even if
you
you
do that,
just
the money will follow.
if you strip that back, that thought just a little bit back, you know, and think about like this period of time is potentially one of the greatest unlock periods, like value unlock periods we've had in a long time because of just the transformational gains you can get out of automation for the for the business use for the business person, right? Because you maybe in the past you would have thought, okay, like a good unlock was the telephone, and then it was like email or the fax, and then it was like email, and then it was like Excel, and then it was PowerPoint or something like that. Like those are some technologies that really made a big impact. Like this is the moment in time where automation, like automation of your role, is the massive unlock. Like it's the next level up in terms of efficiency. And you got to think, like, if you're spending most of your day doing manual tasks that could be automated into a robot, that is actually a value destructor for your business or for you and for you, because you're doing something that someone else can do better, and or something can do better, right? And
Mhm.
you're not only wasting, you're not only you're also at in one sense there you're doing work that is costing out at a higher rate, basically, because it can be done far cheaper. But also, it's the opportunity cost that you're not actually doing things that are adding much greater value, right? So, I think if like you really strip it back like that, like this is an essential thing for you personally, but also as an organization to really jump on, as quickly as possible, right? Like the value extraction, the value unlock is substantial. It's huge if you really buy into it.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely unlocks an employee's potential. If you're doing stuff that can be replaced by a robot or automation, you're not being your best self to you and the company. And
Mm,
some may not see it that way, but that's really what it is. It's not only to the company, but it's to you, as as yourself as well. Because I mean, you probably have a whole lot more potential in there that you don't even know about right now, just because you're doing things like this, and
mm.
it would definitely help on a lot of things.
Yeah, this is really kicking my gears. Thinking, man, we got to do more.
Yeah.
And we already drink the Kool-Aid. There's no doubt about it. But man,
Yep.
even we can do more. Like we can do more internally. And yeah, that's the exciting thing, right? That's the exciting.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great that I'm still excited about this stuff even now when we're multi years into enterprise DNA and what we've been trying to do, and it still is, man. It's just so exciting
Yeah.
what lies ahead.
Yeah. I would sort of, I mean, in the future here, I mean, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but in the future, I'd sort of kind of like to do with Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop, like what Melissa has done with some of her Power Query series, where she takes a
Mm,
situation and then you break it
hmm
down on a call with some, doesn't have to be experts. It can be anybody that's on the on the call or the Zoom session or whatever whatever you're on,
hmm
and then you
hmm
know between me and the other folks, we can help break down how to solve some of these a process. And I know I'm probably a lot of what I'm doing is probably a whole lot farther ahead than where some folks are at right now. So we probably have to
mm,
keep it simple, but I think that would definitely help benefit enterprise DNA in our users to help get them to start using Power Automate and Power
mm,
Automate Desktop. So
mm, mm. Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally agree. That has given me a really interesting idea for something that we can really launch into in the future. I mean, one thing that that I was actually thinking while you're saying that. I was like, man, I was actually doing a quick evaluation of what I do every day. Just then, I was like, man, maybe maybe I need to free up more time. Maybe I'm doing too much manual stuff. And I was thinking, wow, that could actually give me more time to be on calls with our customers and actually like recording some of these things, right? And then making that available to all of our users that we've got. So anyway, that's just not.
Yeah, I mean that's something that you could almost like, it's almost something like, because we have the Power BI challenges each month for I mean, more than sometimes we have several going on with Federico and all the guys and gals that run that, but that could maybe be one of the winning things that a winning contestant gets, is they get to lead a session on maybe a flow or a process that they want automated, and then we kind of do like a live session on a call and help break that down for them, and then share it with everyone. So that might be something.
That's an awesome idea. No, that I really like that. I mean, that is so true. Like the more I just like dwell on it, is that we've got to actually be not only like teaching the fundamentals, but also showcasing the real world application of the impact of these. And what better way to do that than sort of running through live examples of actual like real world situations, real world environments.
Yeah, and it's a situation showing the impact. It's a situation that doesn't come from me. It's coming for somebody that's out there in the world, and we're breaking that down, and I think that's even bigger, just because it's not coming from me. So it's not something it's not something that I've probably majority I haven't done in the past. So it definitely would test me a little bit, but I'm sure if we keep it simple enough, I could be able to figure it out within a short time. So
yeah, no, that sounds good. Well, eventually I'd like to get to having even Power Automate challenges, and and Power Apps challenges as well. Like that's kind of I'm trying to morph our challenge program into sort of like the best project-based learning environment for all of these tools, right? And so we're aiming to have a bit more diversity and a bit more volume in options that people have within the challenge program. We've got some really exciting developments happening within our platform as well. So you could actually like build a portfolio of all of your different challenges and projects and things like that. So that
definitely would be interesting. It definitely would be interesting if you had enough interest in it with the Power Automate desktop, because you could come up with a flow, a process, that you want to get automated. And I'm sure that different people would come back with different results. I mean, there is no one way to automate a flow within Power Automate desktop. I mean, just like Melissa with her Power Query, sometimes you can do it in a few steps, and sometimes you have to do it in a lot of steps. It's just, they all work. It's just some are more efficient than others. And that would be a pretty cool thing to see anyways. It's just to see how the other people break it down there.
Yeah. No, look, we want to be, our desire, I mean, is to be the number one place to go to obviously learn all this stuff, but also to see how it's done, like to see how you actually do this in reality and create that value that we just keep talking about. So some really cool things in the works there as we look to evolve. I mean, one of the big changes this year is really how we've evolved our own what we're focused on, right? Like historically we were always really Power BI, and this year we've made huge gains in having a lot more Power Platform content, because we're true believers, and that's just going to continue, and we're going to try and facilitate that in many different ways. Hey Jarrett, I know your time is precious at the moment, so hey, we can round off here if you like. Any final thoughts? Any words of wisdom?
No, I mean, all I would suggest is, ask yourself that question right now. If you're on this call, is, what do you think that you could do on a day-to-day basis that could be automated by Power Automate or Power Automate desktop that would help save you some time? And I'm sure if you think about it long enough or short enough, you can probably come up with at least one or two ideas. And I mean, it may save you 5 or 10 minutes a day. I mean, just think of that, over the process of a year. But think in small steps and start out slow and don't try to get too complicated. Just keep it simple at first, and then grow.
Yeah, baby steps. I think that's a good that's a good one to end on. Good thought to end on. Okay, well, thanks, Jarrett. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Yeah, great conversation. This has really got me really buzzed around what's possible here as well. Sometimes I can get a bit too carried away after these conversations, and my ideation goes through the roof. Sometimes I've got to bring a bit more focus to what I do day to day too. But anyway, always enjoy these sort of discussions and really appreciate your time. Thanks everyone thanks for being with us on this one, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already on whatever listening channel we reach you through. And look forward to having some more great conversations in the future. Thanks, Jarrett. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.